Hey everybody, hope you're doing awesome today. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about a concept I like to call 80/20 podcasting and business. And the focus here is about looking at how you can work less, earn more money, and help more people by focusing on the things that are most important to you. Now, I'd recently given this a talk at an awesome event called PodFest, and a lot of the people there, of course, are podcasters. And whether you're a podcaster, whether you have a YouTube channel or any other sort of traditional form of marketing, you're looking to use that marketing to reach more people, to connect with people, and hopefully to stir up business, to bring in leads, to make people aware of what it is that you do. And like anything else, if you're investing your time in the best ways, it's going to be very profitable for you. And if you're not, it's going to be a little bit of a waste of your time. So what I'm going to do is share with you some of the ways you can make this as productive as possible for you and as helpful for you, so you're not wasting your time, but you're still getting to the people that really want to hear from you and making as big of an impact as possible. So if you look at how you'd measure a business or a podcast, it's going to be pretty similar. You're going to look at, well, in a business's case, you've got impact. You've got an owner and a team member or team members that are sharing their talents, and the clients are going to benefit from that. That's the impact. The impact has to happen, and that'll lead to some sort of income, hopefully, whether it's directly or ad revenue or generating leads. That's going to create a profitable situation, and then that allows the employees then to be paid as well. And then there's consistency. If you don't have the consistency, well, you simply don't have a business. You've got a tool, a toy, a gadget, maybe a trend, but you don't have a business. So those pieces are all important. Well, similarly, if you're going to have a successful podcast or YouTube show or TikTok channel or whatever it might be, an advertising campaign, not just a one-time event, you're going to have some sort of impact. In the case of a podcast, you're going to have the host, and the guests are going to be sharing their talents if there's a guest, and the listeners will benefit. There'll be some sort of income, again, either directly through ad revenue or through products that are sold or leads generated that lead to services sold or business. And that the guests who come on the show are going to benefit financially. And then again, consistency. So we want to have a situation where that's happening on a regular basis. Well, if you look at that, there are different types of activities you might be doing. So some of your activities might be costing you a lot of money. And I'm going to use a simple math number here so it's easy. And maybe where you're at, it's not dollars you're looking at. Maybe you're looking at pounds or a different currency. But I'm going to stick with -40 as being something that's highly negative. It's costing you money. Something that has a low negative impact is -10, $10 an hour, whatever it might be. A zero impact means it's costing you time, but it's not making you any money or costing you money. And then you have something that might be positive in a low way or positive in a high way. Now here, I don't want you to get really too caught up on exactly how much you make. I'm using these numbers as a concept here. So basically what we're looking to do is say that some of these activities are going to be hurting you in a bigger way, some not doing much for you, and then some helping you in a bigger way. And of course, there's sort of places in between. So as we're looking at this and we look at your activities, we then want to look at how is it that you're investing your time? Well, let's say you're reading marketing emails. Now you're also supposed to be creating marketing emails, let's say, and you say, well, every time you read these marketing emails, it's getting you to second guess what it is that you're doing. You're rethinking your stuff and it's kind of paralyzing you. Well, that can be something that hurts your confidence and hurts your ability. So that would be pretty negative. If you had something that where you say, well, wait, I'm reading these useless marketing emails. I'm not doing anything, but I'm reading them. Well, that's taking up your time. In fact, in the middle, even if I'm reading good marketing emails and they're planting some good seeds, but I'm not taking any action at all, well, that's really not going to be much of an impact. And then ideally, hopefully, I'm on the creative side. I'm creating marketing emails, or even better, creating high result marketing emails. In a similar way, if I'm studying or learning, I might be on the left-hand side buying another training course. If you've been in that cycle, I've been in this before sometimes, where we can get so focused on learning and learning and learning, we don't implement because maybe we're a little hesitant. Maybe we're just so thinking we've got to get it perfect. So if you're in that far left-hand side where you say, you know, what I'm doing is I'm buying somebody else's course, but I'm not taking action. In fact, I've now bought 2 courses or 3 courses and I'm not taking action. Well, that's not a really positive thing. That's costing you money and it's costing you time. On another hand, just a little bit to the right of that, the low negative, let's say you're watching some free content. You're not paying for it with money, but you're investing your time and you're not doing anything with those insights you're learning. Or similarly, in the middle, you're daydreaming and you're not taking action. Any of those things really aren't doing much for you. And then to the right, hopefully you're taking action or taking some high result action of some sort. And then if we were to go to one more example, we'd say, well, what if you're constantly checking on your marketing statistics, whether it's your podcast downloads or your YouTube stats or your likes or whatever it might be, and you're getting disappointed because you're new at this. You're starting and you're building momentum, but you don't yet have the momentum. And so it's disheartening. Well, that's hurting you. That's hurting you in a pretty big way because it's hurting your confidence, which leads to your later desire to create and make things happen. If you're in the orange section, checking email every hour and getting distracted from work and you're not focusing on your work as much, well, that's hurting you. What if you're doing nothing? Well, you're checking email more than 3 times a day. Well, that's still not really helping you. That's kind of distracting you. It's throwing you off versus in the blue, checking email 2 times a day and really focusing on responding in a short period of time, but the rest of the day focusing, or even better, handling your email once per day and cleaning your box on a regular basis. So now if we look at all of these, we want to be able to look at what is our return on our time investment. Now, if you're from the islands, you know what a roti is. A roti is a dish from Trinidad and Tobago, really delicious. But if we're looking at this is your return on time investment. And let's say we take these items here, this -40 per hour up to $40 per hour. And let's say every week you invested 10 hours of your time in each of these types of tasks. So you have 10 hours in a task of each of these categories. And so if you looked at the math, some of it on the left is costing you money, on the right it's making you money. You'd be making $0 in 50 hours in a week. You say, well, wait, that's not really good. That would lead me to making $0 in a year. Well, wait, that wouldn't happen. Well, I can tell you that can happen. That happened to me in my first year of business. When I started a business, things were going really well, at least so I thought, and had a great plan, did a lot of studying, creating, marketing materials, did a lot of coaching, learned how to do it. And the market shifted tremendously. It was right around the time of the bubble burst of the technology industry in 2000. And I was in a financial service related field. And so all this work I did turned into about 6 to 9 months of this, which was not so good. And again, don't get too caught up on the exact numbers. It's a concept. Your numbers might be slightly different. Well, if you saw this, you'd say, well, you know what? Wait, if I could just clean up that leftmost side, that stuff that's really wasting my time, that in and of itself would make a huge impact. I would be now at 40 hours instead of 50. That's 10 hours less per week. And so even though this might not be my exact numbers and my desired numbers, and again, you might be a multiple of this, it's the concept that's really most important. You'd say, look, now I'm working 40 hours instead of 50 and I'm making some money. Okay, that's better. What if I cleaned up even more? Well, now I'm working 30 hours per week and I'm making more money than I was before. So now I'm at about $16 per hour. And again, maybe yours is a multiple of this. So some of this would first be saying, let's clean up what's costing you. And then from there, we'd want to say, well, okay, how can I get to that right side? How can I be in income earning activities? And we talked about that low positive impact. We've got a high positive impact. Well, maybe there's some stuff that's even bigger. And in the example of a podcast, if you produce a good podcast, well, that's pretty good. If you produce a good podcast consistently, that's even better. And then if you have a huge impact with a podcast that is being produced well, it's shared and marketed, and it's being produced consistently, well, that's even better. And so right there, even though it might not exactly be a 4x or a 16 times multiple, it's going to be much better. Similarly, on that podcast or your YouTube show, or if this is clients or sales prospects, if you're interviewing relevant guests, well, that's pretty good. If you're in the middle, pre-screening them and interviewing high quality relevant guests, even better. And then on the right, if you're pre-screening, interviewing high quality relevant guests to market, well, even better. And so you have the ability to be at different levels depending on how you would handle the quality of this. And then finally, if you're interviewing guests on a topic, just as a beginner, you say, wait, I want to associate myself with this topic. I currently have a job, but I want to get in the entrepreneurial field. So I'm interviewing entrepreneurs. Great, Wade. I'm being associated with entrepreneurs, and some of the guests on my show are pretty famous or they're pretty successful. Awesome. Well, an even better strategy in the middle would be to say to also produce solo episodes, even if that was primarily just on your journey, just saying, hey, here's what I'm learning as I'm talking to these experts. I'm not yet an expert, but I'm putting two and two together. I'm seeing some trends here, and you share those. And then on the far right-hand side, well, if you're also starting to now create offers and products or books or coaching programs, so even in this scenario here, you could go on the very left from just being a beginner, a sort of 1x, if you will, impact, to operating more like somebody who's making things happen at a much higher level of impact. And so in that same concept, we would then say, well, some of this stuff is administrative stuff. Some of it's tactics and some of it's transformation. So the lower positive impact work, this is all still positive. You might still technically have some stuff where you're wasting time. But in this scenario here, the lower positive impact work is administrative work. It's easily delegated. And these are the sort of things that if you were able to make 40 bucks an hour or 160 bucks an hour, you could be delegating some of this work. And then you're going to have some tactical work, some work you do really, really well. And maybe that's your field, but that's going to be something that other people do that. So it's not really completely unique. And then there's going to be work that I'm going to call transformational. And again, it might not always be exactly 16 times the original amount, but this is the type of work that changes your clients' lives. It changes the lives of their families, and it changes the lives of their clients. So it really is making a big impact. It's a huge impact. So obviously, as much as possible, we want to be investing time in that purple area. So whereas before we were focusing on cutting out the not so good work, now let's look at what can happen if we really focused on the higher impact work. So let's say 80% of our time was going into the first level, 16% into the second level, and 4% into huge impact work. Well, this is something that's very common with entrepreneurs in a 50-hour work week where the majority of their time is going into some sort of work. And even if you're a salesperson, if you're an entrepreneur, an employee, very often a lot of your time is going into tasks that are setting up that green and that purple time, but they're not happening on a regular basis enough, that green and purple time. So 40 hours, 80% of the time is in there. Well, that would be $1,000 per week that's earned. That's not so bad. That's about 20 bucks per hour. But if we could, we'd want to do better than that. And so what we do is we'd say, okay, well, what if I could spend less time in the blue and more in the green and the purple? And what I'm looking at is the basic concept that right now at my default, 80% of my time is in the blue, but only 38% of my income comes from there. Whereas in just 20% of the time, I'm earning 62% of my income. So I want more time in that green and purple. And I decide, okay, here's what I'm going to work on for the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. I'm going to look to drop some of my hours in that purple area. And let's say I find some things that maybe just don't need to be done or things that can be delegated. And I'm going to invest more time, 4 more hours per week in the green area, 1 more hour per week in the purple area. So now my income has gone up and I'm doing it in less hours. So I'm doing 16% more total income in 10 hours less per week. That's 500 less hours or 480 less hours per year. If I was able to then, over the next 3 to 6 months, do the same thing, drop another set of hours, get more into the green and the purple, and drop some more hours in the blue, then I could be getting to 30 hours per week and making even more money. Now, none of this is magic. A lot of this takes a while to figure out what those tasks are. But usually the 40 per hour work and the $160 per hour work is easy to identify. That's the type of work that you either get paid really well at, or maybe that's the work that's supporting the rest of your operations day in and day out. Or if you work in an hourly income and you have commissions, you might say, well, wait, I get paid a base salary, but then when I sell, I make more money. Well, great. That's that green and that purple time. So the next thing we'd want to do is say, well, what if I could go even further? I'm going to go more into the green and the purple. And again, this won't happen overnight necessarily. This might take a while for you to figure out how to drum up business in these areas. But as you do that, now your income's going up. We're still at the 30 hours. And now you have the time to start funding even more delegation of either some of that blue work or setting up the green and purple work. You have the ability to have people helping you out more. And finally, if you can make one more step where you completely get out of the blue work, that might never happen exactly that way. But just as an example here, if you got fully out of it and were able to delegate that, Now you have a lot more money to work with. Some of that might still need to go to the people who you're delegating to, but you're putting yourself in a much better situation financially. You're in a much stronger situation, and it's more possible, it's more likely for you to be able to delegate some of this work and to make things happen and get more people involved and get even deeper into that green and purple work, which eventually, as you get to know your clients better and you do more of that green and purple work, you're going to find that the hourly income, your ability to do that at a higher level, the ability of the results you're going to be able to get is going to go up, and so that's going to make it even more possible. And so this whole framework comes down to just a really simple concept of being able to invest your time better, and then you'll earn better. So if we look at this continuum that we've looked at in this whole conversation now, going from highly negative on the very left to huge positive on the right, really what we would need to do is simply have you start writing down where you're investing your time and starting to change that. And so a lot of this can be very fancy at times, and sometimes it can be very simple. And so one of the tools we have, this is the Invest Better, Earn Better tool. You can access at 4dayworkweek.com/tools, and you can access that tool and download that if you like. If you want to go deeper, you can go into the 4-day workweek game plan, and you can create your 4-day workweek game plan. Start figuring out how much money would you have to make? When would you work? What sort of work would you need to do? Whether you're an entrepreneur or an employee or a freelancer, whatever it might be, this is the kind of strategic movements that allows you to start deciding where you're going to invest your time. So again, if you want the tool, you can go to 4dayworkweek.com/tools, and you can get that, the tool that will allow you to reallocate your time based on what we've talked about today. Or if you'd like to go directly into creating your game plan, go to 4dayworkweek.com/game plan, and you can start creating that framework of what's going to help you work a 4-day work week. And from there, whether you're an employee, a freelancer, an entrepreneur, a side hustler, a solopreneur, a business owner, wherever you're at, that's a foundation of how you start. And from there, you can start making progress. So if you have any questions on this, please let me know, put them in the comment section, or reach out to me at wade@4dayworkweek.com. As always, look forward to helping you make more money in less time, doing what you do best so you can better enjoy your family, your friends, and your life, and share your gifts with the world. Have a great weekend, everybody.